How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lo4f, and today I'm going to go and do a mission called the Element of Water, and I'm going over to the By the Lake map for this one. I just fancied I've done a few missions on this map, and yeah, it was a good excuse to take the step Pike back out, since I did a mission the other day, but I kind of lost a bit of the footage in the middle and all sorts, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to take it back out anyway. So I've got to head over to the By the Lake gateway, which I'm going to go over to this one on the right hand side of the map. I can drive through that swamp, but it just so happens I keep having to drive through it like at the start of half the videos, because like if I'm going to go over to By the Lake, this is another reason. I know, strictly speaking, I'm making videos and not everyone's going to be doing that, but just from, even if you're not, just from the sakes of variety whilst you're playing the game, if there was a garage on the other map, at least I'd have another option for starting each mission, if you know what I mean. Like now, between these two maps, unless you just go and select a random vehicle you abandoned previously, every single mission is going to start from the garage, and I'm going to turn left or right, and I'm going to drive over the same little bits of road. So yeah, it's just one of them where that's where I think like that's one of the many reasons why having a garage on both maps would be nice. But yeah, instead of just cutting over the swamp again, because I have actually been over it before in this step Pike. Again, I can't remember if it actually made it into a video, but I was just kind of curious while I was eyeballing this mountain to see if it's, or you know, how doable or whatever it is to cross the mountain instead of the swamp. And strictly speaking, I don't think it's not a terrible way. It's certainly to sort of mix it up a little bit. I mean, this was my first time going through there as well, so say if I was to do it again now, I kind of could speed up the process a little bit, because I just kind of know the way I'm going. At the minute I was driving pretty slow, because I was kind of looking around with the camera and figuring out like, is there better ways, is there sort of smoother ways and all the rest of it. But yeah, it was just, there is no like great objective reason, it was just to kind of mix things up a bit. And then typical, I started to tip now, so I fired a winch out, must have grabbed a unkillable tree, and it all looked fine, and at the last second it just flung itself over one more time. The Lo4f, goddamn professional, he's been trained for these situations. He dived out the sideboard, so I didn't tip, hence why the vehicle stayed on its wheels. Yeah, I've got a crane with me, because that's one thing I will say, sorry, I forgot to say at the beginning, with this mission, is the 4 service spare parts are scattered across the map on By the Lake, so you're gonna, like, I've got the ramp flatbed, need 4 enough room for 4 slots of cargo, and then yeah, you're gonna need a crane as well, because you're like manually rescuing each bit, and they're not all in one place, they're kind of scattered all over the place a bit. And yeah, at this point I kind of, as I got off the mountain, well, I kind of thought I'd already got, say, nearer here, but then it turned out I was kind of near enough connecting back to the normal way. So then I kind of swung back through these trees, which, in theory, I probably should have driven in a straight line. And yeah, this thing, it doesn't like getting over barriers very well. It's got seriously baby tyres. To be fair, in certain places, actually, like, it's a decent truck. It motors along for the size of the tyres. And now with a go like that, chevron sign won't move at all. It's completely wedging the trailer. But the last one I just hit managed to phase into my bonnet, and thankfully it popped back out, but that's the sort of thing it would have locked in place if it didn't kind of pop out. But yeah, just the game. All these little random things that, I don't know, aren't really a thing. You just get sidetracked by like, oh, the game's doing this now. It's like, yeah, just suddenly it's the only chevron sign in history that won't move no matter how hard you smash a trailer against it. Quickly grab some fuel. In the end it was a good idea to, really. This thing, what is it? No, the fuel tank's not tiny. Like, this thing must drink a fair bit. Just based on, I did actually grab the fuel then, and then I'm sure later on at some point on the other map, I remember thinking to myself, like, had I just left the truck idling for 5 minutes, because the fuel seems like, I just thought I'd have a little bit more than I did, but I don't think I did leave it idling or anything. I think it just likes to drink a bit. Yeah, over to yeah, the By the Lake gateway. I'm going to go down the road, and then you can see the first one here, well, you got 4 that are scattered. I think it's best to get this one first. And at this point, I was seriously considering, like, crossing the river there. But then I'd have to drive through here, grab that one, and then double back on myself to the garage. So it just sort of made sense, like, assuming I won't be able to cross the river, if I grab that and double back and come up the left-hand side of the river, as I cross over on that island, grab the second one, then the third and fourth, and then it kind of, like, just after you grab the fourth one, it's sort of, you can then go through the back to in there. That's what she said. Into the warehouse or whatever. So, yeah, that's kind of what I drew in the end, but I was basically, like, as I was drawing the lines, I was thinking, am I going to go up the left-hand side of the river, or, yeah, I may attempt a bit of a crossing. At the minute, I'm going to stick to the road route, although you got little things like the, yeah, waterlogged roads and a bit of mud going on. You can see how quick it sort of stopped this vehicle, and not to hold it against this vehicle, again, for the size of this vehicle, because it is pretty small, and the wheels are very small, they're definitely easily on the lower end of, like, all the vehicles, well, not all the vehicles in the game, but all the trucks in the game. Yeah, and considering that is, like, within reason, a sort of handicap. I mean, if this truck just had tyres that were 10 inches bigger, but everything else was the same, assuming it didn't, you know, like, weirdly gear it up to the point it can barely move now, but it would just objectively drive over more stuff because it's got taller tyres. Yeah, like, as it is, when you hit, like, little, even some of the lighter mud patches, in its defence, it's more if they've coded it as super mud and all the rest of it, which means it does kind of affect various vehicles more than it should, really. But nonetheless, that is kind of, that's what they do. Like, do you know what? Now would probably be, like, a good example, even with the snow. See how just when you get to the certain bit, it suddenly just forces you to go like half a mile an hour. But yeah, because this has got like 43-inch tyres, generally speaking, it's just like, say if there was 50-inch tyres, there's like a pretty big tyre. If you're sinking like half the tyre into the mud, that's 25 inches it's going to sink in. That's definitely what she said. If you've only got like a 43-inch tyre, that's only, what, 21.5 inches that's going to go in. And I won't say it, but let's say the game's been scaled roughly to make your tyres sink 22 or 23 inches, because then that's going to kind of be like the smaller tyres are going to get punished, start scuffing their front bumper and their diffs and the underside of their chassis. Yeah, the trucks with bigger tyres are going to just make it and, like, not have those issues. So essentially that's just kind of the way the game's been scaled and everything. These tyres just get a little bit punished. But it does feel like a little bit, yeah, like the game's kind of do it. But I will say as well, like, driving through snow, I kind of, especially being in the UK, when we get snow, it kind of doesn't last that long in the scheme of things. So, off the top of my head, if I was driving along and I've seen a bit of field and snow like that, I just have in my head that it's relatively fresh snow that's pretty easy to drive through. Like, some of these bits of snow that I'm getting stuck in, yeah, it's like, I used to go out just to McDonald's for the fun of it, like when it was snowing in the M5, and it's only, yeah, just saying, that's obviously not like the not the car that jumped to mind if you wanted to go like out in snow, but even that could handle it. But I was just gonna say, like, this map, the snow that sat there, in reality is probably the equivalent of, like, it's been there for 2 years and it's actually just solid bricks of ice that as you drive through it kind of crunches through, and yeah, it's probably a bit more awkward to drive through than I imagine. But nonetheless, I've got a apparent, like, purpose-built off-road truck, but I believe I'll be expecting some pretty good results. So yeah, this is the first island, or like the first cargo, but this is the island where, yeah, I was still kind of unsure what I was going to do. And yeah, I'm sure, like, the cranes, they keep getting worse and worse, but it doesn't even reach the trailer, like, at all anymore, which is just, again, like, it's a standard length of sideboard and all the rest of it. And then, yeah, like I say, I was on an hour and do I go back the way I came or cross the river? So I had to have a little look with the camera, and obviously, even though I am pretty renowned for being a very safe, cautious, patient, don't take the risk kind of driver, I had to chance it. I knew the current was going to be strong, and I'll admit, I already had this in mind when I was building the step pipe. This wasn't bad planning, this was ignorant planning. This was willful ignorant planning. I can't even say it, that's how ignorant it is. Yeah, I mean, for a start, I probably would have got a bigger vehicle than like the smallest truck in the game with the smallest wheels. But yeah, it didn't go too well. I say it didn't go too well. It actually went pretty bloody great. Because it confirmed my suspicions that I in fact cannot cross the river. Yeah, I mean, this river in general, there's like 1 or 2 places you can cross, but they should have made a mission where we can build a bridge or something around here in the middle of just the map in general, because otherwise it just forces you either have to go like along the left hand side of the map up to kind of that there where you can cross. There is another island which I'm going to cross later on now, or you got to go like right to the other end, and there's a bridge you can fix, but it's right next to the rail bridge that if you're in a skinny enough vehicle you can cross, and even if not, there's a road like basically next to that that's a piece of piss to cross the river. So the bridge being that far over, it doesn't even like, there's no urgency to fixing it or anything, whereas yeah, a bridge here would be very high on the priority list to like get built, and yeah, have another option to cross, even if it wasn't a proper bridge, even if it was like laying some kind of log path, or I don't know, even do something different. Say take cargo there, and after you drop like 8 lots of bags of sand off or something, it kind of builds up the riverbed a bit, so it's at least shallow enough like that it's theoretically crossable. At the minute, even though I didn't bring the best truck technically speaking, because it's like not the tallest and all the rest of it, that current is very strong. Even if I'd brought like a dolphin or something, the dolphin certainly I reckon would have done better. It probably would have remained like going diagonally, because the river was going to tip this like the current. I just started steering into it, hence why, I mean, again, it went kind of well. The current got me, I steered into it so I didn't tip, and then I kind of let the current keep pushing me until I got shallow enough to fire up the engine again. The engine was broken though, got a goddamn horse of me with a roof rack, fixed that, fired it up, and we're out of there. See, that's why things went pretty great. Now, not only do I get to go this way, which is the way I drew the lines and the waypoints, but I also satisfied my curiosity about can I cross that river. And even though I knew like there was a good 98% chance I couldn't, you know, I've played the lottery before with worse odds than that. A 2% chance that I could have made it is pretty bloody good. That's pretty high numbers. So yeah, and you see, this is a good example though. You see now they've not coded everything as like super mud every 2 seconds. This truck is actually pretty solid and decent, considering it's a very small truck with small tyres. Like, it's ploughing along this road, no, like, you know, respectably, how I'd like it to. I think it's fair. It's not, I'm not going 80 miles an hour or anything. But, you know, I'm making progress. I also don't want to get stuck going half a mile an hour in like what looks like 6 inches of mud or snow or whatever. Yeah, but like I say, this is just a good example. I'm not I do like this truck, to be honest. I think it's pretty respectable. The cranes still suck, but they're kind of doing everything. That's not this vehicle's fault, and it's got a very nice paint job. And yeah, for the most part, you can kind of tell I sort of avoid sitting my tyres in like the grooves in the road anymore, because that's normally when you kind of, if it's going to do super mud or anything, that's when it will get you. If you kind of drive to the left or right of the tracks that it's supplied, that's usually you've got more chance of not getting caught up in like this weird little over-coded patches that they add into the game. So yeah, this is like the island that's probably nearest to the middle of the map and all the rest of it, but it's not really, if you know, you've still got to, it forces you to go this way, and there's not really, by the time you've got to this crossing, I could have just followed the road a bit further up and round the corner, and then there's another crossing. But yeah, back where I just was earlier, For example, like, yeah, where I drove the truck in the river and back out, that would be a perfect place. And like I said, even if they made that, say, almost even better, if that was the theme of this map, like, say there was a massive bridge that you've almost got to do, like, a bit like how we restored the paper mill, you know, if you had to do, like, 4 or 5 different contracts, keep bringing different supplies from different places and all sorts, and slowly build, like, a massive bridge, so that at least, eventually, at least it's something to kind of work towards. Yeah, with the cranes just feeling, it just feels like slightly bad design. You know that it's a standard length sideboard and there's a crane and it can't even reach the trailer behind it. So I had to improvise a little bit. I disconnected the trailer, reversed, it kind of fell weird, wouldn't pack the cargo, but I actually wanted to unpack the cargo. So it was kind of like, ha, game, plot twist. That's what I wanted you to do, was not pack the cargo. Yeah, and then I reversed at it. Well, had to reattach the trailer, unpack the cargo, detach the trailer, reverse at it, smash the cargo on there, reattach the trailer, pack the cargo, restore the crane, probably a victory horn, and then we're off. But, you know, if there was like a few more inches, that's what she said, but it's true. If there was, the crane could just load stuff without having to go through all that madness. But I've only got 2. To be honest, I'm not even like, I'm not trying to rip on the game. Well, I am a little bit because of the bugs, but yeah, this mission was actually pretty cool. The trucks were fine. Like, it's actually a pretty sort of nice mission. And again, you can, I'm gonna have to say that's what she said again. You can make it as hard as you want, by taking obviously like smaller vehicles, etc. This one though, for a small vehicle, is actually, yeah, pretty capable and decent. Funnily enough, just I remember, I believe anyway, when I was putting the tyres on, this doesn't have the option of having chained, which at some point, what other truck did it? Oh yeah, I built a Dan. Because even though I wasn't going to use the attachment, but Justin Lynch was saying earlier in the comments that that multi-purpose cargo bed thing weighs a hell of a lot. When you put it on trucks, which I agree it does, I think it's like the new heaviest add-on you can add, really. It's even heavier than the fuel tanker. And yeah, he said Dan kind of is very good at not tipping, and I thought, do you know what, I might use Dan, because I nearly said as well it's like a submarine truck, and I was going to cross the river. But Dan couldn't have a crane, and I have to manually get these. And that's another point, to be honest. I wish they'd just add all add-ons to all trucks, because the amount of times I would like to bring different trucks out that I don't use as often, and then it's like, oh yeah, I can't because it hasn't got this or it won't do that. Like, yeah, in theory, if everything could have everything, there'd be even more variety to the trucks and stuff I use. But there's only like a handful of trucks here. It's like the same 5 or 10 trucks that can just have all the options. And again, I will say credit to this truck. It's got to be the smallest truck that can do this, and I'm surprised they let it, but it's good that it can. You can have the crane, the sideboard, and a trailer, which is not that common in this game. And yeah, again, the fact that they let a truck this small be able to do all that, normally, like with a chassis this size, especially once the crane's on. But you can see they've made it very snug between the sideboard and the cab. And yeah, with this, grabbing this third one, it just made sense to disconnect the trailer, drive off those rocks and go and grab it. And then when I drive back up, drop the cargo off like that, as I'm kind of doing a 3-point turn to turn around. Which, considering that the crane's a pain in the arse and it's a pain in the arse to load the cargo on the trailer, this worked out quite nicely. But the good thing is, at least with this one, it felt organic. Like, even if the crane could reach the trailer, it just felt like it makes sense to, practically here, disconnect the trailer, just jump the truck down the rocks, and now I don't have to try and U-turn a ramped flatbed through those trees and all the rest of it. And then yeah, while I'm driving back up to the trailer, it was just like drive alongside it and start my reverse 3-point turn from there. But yeah, if the crane did have a little bit more reach, it would be nice. And then this fourth one, I already knew at this point, I mean, I was looking and it's like, well, I could sweep round these trees, there is theoretically a way to get back up. But I was aware, objectively speaking, the common sense thing to do would have been the same thing again, really. Disconnect the trailer at the road, just drive the truck down. I could have even just drove it down like the little bit it sort of level with, grab the cargo, reversed. As silly as it is, even like in this little way, I don't want to double back on myself, so I'd rather just drive down this way and pretty much do a U-turn and go back up the other way, instead of driving down and then, yeah, reversing 10 foot. I don't know why. I mean, I would if I had to, obviously, but as you can see, the attempt to not do that. So you can kind of tell what, yeah, the idea was, kind of jump down, grab the cargo, U-turn and drive back up like this nice little convenient naturally occurring boat ramp thing they've got going on. And then, yeah, again, it's like, oh, for God's sake, cranes. I did know what, if there's ever some kind of like quality control job going at SnowRunner, just want to let me know, because I'll apply for that job. It must be a piece of piss. And then look, now you can go and rewind that and look at it. I clicked pack cargo, and for no apparent reason, once I clicked pack cargo, it removed all those options, put my menu selector thing onto remove cargo, and then deleted the piece of bloody cargo. So yeah, I did the quit and reload method, because it's times like that especially, I mean, especially like the way I am in this game, I do the quit and reload method when I feel like the game's just been a dick and it's been a bit unfair, and it's not even a case of like, well, you know, oh, I think I'll get stuck, I'll quit and reload or whatever. It's often I get sidetracked thinking like, you know, sort of the game is like, oh right, you wanna you wanna see if I can't get out of this situation, I'll sit here for 3 hours and I'll figure how to get out of it. But yeah, often it's like, I don't always want my videos to go in the direction, like if the game does some trollish bug and it's gonna redirect how my mission goes, sometimes it's like, no, I'll quit and reload, I want the mission to go how it should without the game being a troll and sidetracking me. So here's a good example, like I quit and reloaded, I even left a few in there just by chance, as this was where it kept reloading. The saving cogs must have happened just as I was kind of got the cargo to eventually balance on there, but I had to disconnect the trailer to do it. And this is like the first time I've really noticed that this is happening, but the first 2 times I quit and reloaded, the truck was already tipped enough that it was auto unpacking the loaf, and then I was almost tipping, and then when I'd select attach the trailer, I couldn't drive forward, it was just kind of not really letting me balance my wheels. Thankfully, I have been in these kind of situations before, kind of put myself in them. Yeah, using the crane as a counterbalance, stick that all the way over to the left in this case, so it just puts enough weight, lower down the better as well, which kept enough weight on my inside tyres that I could actually get enough grip to make the corner. But yeah, the funny thing was, I think it was this time, like when it sort of worked a bit better, when I quit and reloaded that time, it didn't lean over, like it didn't start out where the truck's already leant over and the loafer's auto unpacked, which is just weird because it's the first time I've noticed where I'm loading up the same, like the last point it's saved, but they're actually slightly different each time. Like the first 2 times I was tipped enough that the loaf was unpacked, the 3rd time I was just on the limit, and yeah, I just found that a bit sort of odd that it was sort of noticeably slightly different. But yeah, all in all, I mean, again, even the quit and reload method, this is what I wanted to happen, and I wanted to see if it's doable. Like at the point I started tipping, it's like I can just unpack the loaf, I can climb the loaf out of there, I'll get him out of there one way or another, and then he's easily dragging this truck out of there and the trailer, and then I'll faff around for half an hour or an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours getting the cargo out the river, and then I'll end up here in a few hours time with the same thing. But just the quit and reload method is like, yeah, you've stolen enough of my time, game. You see, if I just put the cargo on it and rolled off to the left, like, Jesus goddamn Christ, get on the trailer. Yeah, disconnected the trailer, like I was kangarooing it a bit as I was driving forward. You see, it's like, just stop it, game. Reattached the trailer, that jiggled the cargo forward. Thankfully, I just still went for the unpack and pack method, and it did still accept the cargo. We got it packed, saw the crane, quickly just change back to daytime, drop the hammer. Yeah, we have all 4 pieces of cargo now. for what it's worth, as silly as it sounds, like, I've been driving relatively fast with this trailer, and maybe because this truck's so small, it sits quite low, the ramped flatbed seems to be not being as much of a dick and trying to tip every 2 seconds. I was just thinking maybe, you know, if you tow in with a truck that's so much taller that the hitch is kind of diagonally pointing up to meet your truck, I think that helps encourage its tippiness, whereas it seems this is more the opposite, like the truck's so low that the hitch is actually sat really kind of low slung as well, and the trailer, yeah, I think sometimes maybe the height of your truck kind of gives the trailer less reason to not just flop around like a maniac. Anyway, yeah, come flying into the garage, just move the old Tiger out of the way from a previous mission, drop these off, and we're done. I mean, yeah, no, is it like £4.5 grand? Yeah, nothing particularly like, I don't know, just money you're unlocking. But it was actually a pretty cool mission. You've got to go and rescue 4 lots of cargo from the side of the river. It actually feels like a bit of an old school mission you used to get on like Smithfield Dam or, yeah, Black River, that sort of thing. So overall, yeah, pretty good. Pretty happy with Step Pike, the loaf as usual. Goddamn professional all the way. Yeah, I also quickly just checked if this ramp flatbed is the same size as those trailer things, and it turns out they're the same size, so it's good to know. Yeah, that's about it for today though. I hope you enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Get yourself a loaf because he's a goddamn whopper, and I'll be back soon.